Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. It's the tail of my cat moving the camera. This is Shirley with Spirit of Matter. And today I would like to talk about, yes, Pluto and Sun aspects in synastries and composites. So, Pluto Sun is something that right now is happening, perfecting in the sky. This is basically Venus day going to Mars night and Jupiter hour, with Jupiter 12 degrees Gemini, midheaven ruled by Mars, with Mars about to go to ingress into Gemini and meet Sedna. So, good news, Mars is about to go out of Taurus. Bad news, prepare the foot in the mouth, Mars is entering Gemini and conjuncting Sedna. And the ascendant is ruled by Saturn, which is retrograding Pisces, ruled by this Jupiter. So, what are Pluto and Sun aspects? Sun, when it comes to, I'm talking about relational astrology, okay? Sun, when it comes to the relational or synastry astrology, it's basically our intellect, what people call our personality, although it's way more intricate and affected by all the planets. Our shine, our confidence, okay? And the sun, what is it? It's the body in the sky that's rather fixed. And even if it moves, it doesn't move like the planets, and everything revolves around it and receives its light from it, but it's also kind of a gravity center, okay? So in our composite sun, this is where the gravity center or the shine of the connection is, the source of warmth around the planet that revolves around it, okay? In the center where the planets revolve around. Now, and so Sun, Pluto, what is Pluto? Pluto is, think about Pluto as a garbage can, okay? It doesn't sound so lovely. You wouldn't think about the garbage can as the source of like your joy or your greatest wealth and so on and so forth, because we are used to think about garbage can as something that we throw something into when we no longer need it. However, when you're moving into a new apartment, before you buy a furniture, before you buy anything to the apartment, what do? If you're living in good neighborhoods where they don't have everything industrialized yet, you make around all the garbage cans. But you see, maybe there are furnitures, maybe there are lamps, maybe there are things that you need for your home, something that somebody else doesn't need, and that is your wealth found. But you do have to go around like the garbage, okay? And Pluto is basically kind of like the garbage of our soul, but also where the compost is. Okay, somebody throws something out, but something else grows instead. Okay, if the compost that you use in your yard or in your home, this is also a very Pluto thing. Something decays, decomposes, but then regenerates and nourishes the soil on which you grow food. So Pluto is highly important for this level in our bodies, ruling excretion, okay, what we know as the bum hole. So not Uranus. Uranus does not rule the bum hole, but actually Pluto or Scorpio, and to some people Mars, but for the outer planets. And so what happens when the sun contacts with Pluto? If it is harmonious aspect, this is where somebody's shine, confidence, light sheds light on what a garbage can is, okay? What our list of troubles is, what the things that we usually hide, okay? We usually dissipate. And while that's in no way easy, that can create rejuvenation, not through crisis so much as the hard aspects, but in a way where somebody exposes your secrets, but they're very welcoming of it. They expose that thing which you are ashamed of, but they shed light on, and they they see you and they respect you. Okay, for sun is also respect. However, what happens when this is happening in a hard aspect, like the square or the opposition? Okay, you think about the sun as a flashlight, and a Pluto as the place in your soul that you are pushing everything that you don't want to talk about, even with yourself, about. Somebody pointing a flashlight right on it would be the opposition. Somebody coming from the corner trying to corner you in with that flashlight, that would be the square. And that's why Pluto soul is, when people say, you hear about readers, I hear sometimes tarot readers saying your light irritate their demons. Okay, so that would be the Pluto soul square. And so what is the coping mechanism for when somebody does that to you is to try to undermine their confidence, because it's coming from crisis point. You're sure they're coming to throw you down. Okay, you're sure they're coming from ego place to you, and sometimes they are. And so the coping mechanism would be to attack and to undermine the shine, the confidence, and the personality of another person. Okay, so for the hard aspects, when this is happening through crisis, this can throw, if it is synastry, so you have kind of like the soul person, and then you have the Pluto person. If it is composite, both of you can play the soul person and the Pluto person, where exposing and getting to your secrets is done by crisis, or by trying to dredge up what's within, rather than from a place where you actually shed light and you are accepting. Okay, so you could have, for example, two people hiding the same secret. Let's talk about politics, because Pluto is politics. Let's say there are two, one politician is left wing, one politician right wing. One politician has such and such Pluto, one politician such and such Pluto. Your sun is squaring one or opposite in one, but trining or sextiling another. And so for the politician, and both of them exposed, let's say, what is big now, satanic ritual abuse. Okay, both of them exposed as being a part of Peter Ring. They extorted and then they put them out. Okay, for one politician, when they're extorted and put out, you're like, oh, but they do that and that, and you're immediately in conflict relation. For the other, you're like, oh, but they were also abused. So they're just going to expose everyone left and right. Everybody's in it. So let's go a little deeper so we can see, we can dismantle it from where it's actually at. And so the way it manifests in voting patterns is that you would vote to one direction but not to another, based on the interaction of your energies, rather than taking a look what represents me. And this is how we're going to see it a lot in politics. I believe that this aspect where Sun is perfecting to oppose Pluto in a 0 degree Leo is going to be a lot about, well, I don't know if it's going to be children from this one. I think it's going to be more science, or like the 2030 agenda, or COVID, or stuff like that. And then you see one person supported this agenda from the right, one supported from the left. You would tend to be biased towards one side, one party or the other, according more to your natal chart and how it interacts with theirs, rather than taking a look at the topic at hand. Okay, if it is between, let's say, family members, so this is where you could be way more cooperative, where it's like, hey, that, like, what you, let's say the Pluto person can feel, hey, what you don't like about me is the same thing they are doing, but me, you give crisis and troubles, and them, you defend them. Okay, And so this is how it can come about, and that can create for really troubling relational patterns and unconscious, because with Pluto Sun, what happens is if the moon is reflecting, Pluto is projecting, and so Pluto will be projecting onto you basically their own traumas, okay, for what they do. Whereas when it is done with a sextile or a trine, you kind of like cross the waves into, you know, when you get to the ocean, okay, cross the waves, and then you swim after the waves. With the opposition, you're stuck in the waves, trying to make the curve straight, to align the curve, okay? So the question is, what do you do? First of all, one way to curate this is to keep in mind or bring into the synastry or composite to the relation a Pluto trine Sun, Pluto sextile Sun, composite to synastry. You can go to astroseek.com, you can look for this, or you can pay attention of what other synastries and composites around you. You will see how can you curate this, and that can give you a little bit of a more enlightened response, where you can remember, okay, we are getting into this pattern now. I want to remind you that because we're talking about with a hard aspect, something that undermines the personality, shine, and confidence of the person, it is not so compatible for close relations. Okay, this is if and where unfortunately violence can happen, because it really decentralizes a person. So this is not so compatible for close relations. Always good to keep in mind that is the way that both of you respond from the hard aspect is not the way you would respond to the same issue, to the absolute same issue, had it met your Sun or Pluto from a harmonious angle. But with the harmonious angle, you can tackle very, very deep issues. Again, it's not easy, it's dredging up things, but you can tackle very, very, very deep issues around the persona, the personality, your confidence, your shine, and that you wouldn't have been able to with the hard aspect. And that can be a point that is centering. So I always say bring in a harmonious aspect and tap into it. When it comes to transits, Sun right now, Sun trying opposite Pluto from Leo will be very likely solar figures, performers, leaders, shedding light in a crisis opposition on the places where science has not been sciencing. Okay, because usually you have for Aquarius the scientific authority. I know about this. I have studied this issue myself for so and so years. And then the Leo comes and says, well, for me, that shit doesn't work. For me, what you say, I don't care how many years you studied or where you went to, whichever. This is not so much standardized studies, but I don't care for what you say is not working for me. Okay? If I recall, for example, back to my thesis, I said, well, all of these ANOVA models, statistical models, they are not compatible with the unit of analysis called the human being. Of course, it is by design. But we are going to have a lot of such people shedding a lot of light about this. And the Aquarian, those who play, if you have Aquarian placements, it can be very difficult because not only Pluto is going over the first few degrees of Aquarius, but you're gonna have the sun shedding light from the opposition part. So, and also with Pluto, if you take the approach of evolutionary astrology, you want to evolve from where your Pluto is at to the opposite direction. Okay? And what happens when you have a sun right where you're supposed to evolve? Okay? You have something that burns you as you try to go there. This is why it's so difficult. It's like, hey, I want to go towards you, but you are burning me with your light, basically, with your confidence, because I cannot see. So thinking about going out of the cave and somebody's burning you with their light. Okay? So you have to contract, you have to go back, whereas if the light was a bit dimmer, perhaps you could meet that. But of course, for the sun person, it's like, you want to dim a light, you want to undermine my confidence, you want to make me small. I'm not going to be small for you. And there we have the back and forth. So this is where I would advise you, for when you have this this is the situations where mostly, I would say, engage with other people, understand, because what is the problem? The problem is that the Pluto person needs to go to where you are, but you are like a flashlight on their face. So what you want to do is to limit the time that you meet this person. Maybe meet them through another person, okay? Have another person bridging between you can be very important when you have to tackle this person, because you will always be that flashlight, just who you are. And it can feel horrid, because it feels like just who I am is irritating your demons. But neither, if you can be compassionate, you understand that each of us has a Pluto. Whoever has the sun the opposite place, they also irritate our demons, and they do it from the place where we are in a cave. So especially if you're very, it can be if you're attached to your intelligence, so if you're attached to your psychological capabilities, or whatever it is to you, it is also your source of power. Okay, let's say you are the kind of person who lives in a no pain no gain, and then you meet this person who's like, I don't know, sun in Aquarius, that can sometimes manifest very quickly, or Taurus, and okay, one would be the opposite, one would be the square, let's say Scorpio, that wants to transform all the time, and then like they are having abundance, they are having good relational life, they're having family, they're not in pain and transformation all the time. This can really, this is the ultimate Scorpio crisis, okay? This is the ultimate Scorpio crisis. Like, oh, I can do that without going into hell every day, okay, or every other day. So that can be very, very harsh. Whereas, let's say, that person has a sun in Capricorn. So sun in Capricorn is like, yes, I work hard, but I also rest, because Saturn is a lot of rest, and you need to rest, and you need to this, and you need to that, and you meet each other halfway way easily, because there is a sextile relationship between the Pluto Scorpios, let's say, and the Pluto Capricorns. If you Pluto Sagittarius, then Gemini souls could irritate your demons. Because they're like, no, I haven't gone to school, but yes, they do things smarter, even though they did not go to the best university, or to sit and travel the world. Okay, it's the kind of person you think about running to your neighbor that is always staying at home, local, and you think, oh, what did they know about the world? And you're like, oh, wasn't that thing what they were doing in North Korea? Like, how do you know about North Korea? Oh, can't you tell? You see the cameras in the street, like they do there. Ah, we had it in Soviet Russia. Now they want to bring that again. It's good that Putin is taking down these people, okay? And you're like, how the fuck do they know? Okay? How the fuck does it? Yeah, I watch TV all the time. Or you take away, I take the trash every day and I see suddenly camera, suddenly camera, suddenly camera. You think if somebody got murdered in the streets, anybody would put on the camera? Okay? And so this person, which you like, oh, they never travel too much, they didn't go to any high education, they don't do any retreats, and they have just the street wisdom, which is like, and they argue with you also, okay, because Gemini is argumentative. So, and not only that, they have good points. So now you can feel something is meeting you. Whereas if it was, you know, for Sagittarius, let's say if it was a Libra, okay, so it would go, Libras always like to tend to beauty. I have a colleague that has a beauty salon, and she's an astrologer. So you can imagine going, doing your hair, and then somebody talks with you about astrology, and it's like, oh, you want to come over for a reading? That sounds a bit more close than the person that would just argue with you, okay? And you're like, but what university did you go to? Oh, but didn't you know that all of your professors are in this pedo cult, that they get a grant from this, from that, from Vax, you so on. And you didn't know that with all of your degrees. So this is how Pluto and Sol can interact in ways that are either promoting you genuinely evolving out of the cave, okay? But also for the Sol person, okay? The meeting the Pluto person is a deep evolution. Meeting the Pluto person means that you see into the cave that the person is in, and they can help you out of your own, okay, unconfidence, or all the times that you've been undermined. They can help you understand that. It's like, yes, this person's going through this and that and that and that and that. I know, they act funny. And you're like, how do you know? Oh, I've been through that, but you don't act funny. Yes, to you. Okay? So that is something that I hope we can keep in mind when it comes to the upcoming transit, but also for relations in our lives. If you want to know about like the square, then it can feel like a constant ego struggle that keeps dredging up the things that you need to handle through a trine or a sextile. So again, if this is like your parent or your child, okay, bringing in another person to communicate over this point or that point, or wherever that issue or this issue come up, that can be very benefic. Okay, having another person to be the bridge where they have good aspects with your chart and with their chart. That can be very, very useful. Okay, think about character assassination. Okay, Pluto Sol hard aspect is very much character assassination. That the same things that you criticize about another person, like they're like that, they're always this, they're always that. From another aspect, you would be related, you would be forgiving, you would be accepting. Okay, you don't really have a genuine criticism to the person, you're just assessing their character, and that is yet another hard aspect where you have character assassination. Okay, I grew up with this, it's something horrid. And then one time the Sol person or the Pluto person responds, now the other person is in a crisis. Okay, and this is where for Sol, the solar figure, you always blame that they are always revolving around themselves, but everybody has a sun. Okay, everybody has a sun, everybody has the confidence, the shine. And when somebody's confidence or shine meets you in a way that irritates your demons because you thought you need to be humble or shy away or not to maneuver with people so you can get your point across, or not to put yourself too much in the limelight. When you've been taught in this way, that can make it difficult, but because it's hard aspect, no matter what you've been taught, the way that they shine is just opposite what you are feeling most powerless to do. Okay, the way that they shine, you're feeling most powerless in these situations, but you also need to evolve towards them. The opposition for soul, very difficult, but they can, the important thing is they can shed light on where you need to evolve, more so than these aspects. Okay, they can shed light. If you're the Pluto person, this is synastry, they can shed light of where you need to evolve, because they're right there. It's a sun in the point where you need to get to. So you have to not expose yourself too much to them, but yes, process it with the person that whose soul you meet from a more harmonious aspect, so that you can slowly grow and evolve to that place, because they are going to put a shining spark. Okay, let's say I have Pluto 0 degrees Scorpio. The opposite polarity would be 0 degree Taurus, or the latest degree of Aries. Okay, and I had an Aries friend, and they were towards these kind of late degrees Aries, and they would always be the center of attention. Always be the center of attention. Always have everybody revolving around them and so on. And until I didn't see a video of some colleague astrologer that said, oh, the last decan of Aries, this is the song Circus by Britney Spears. And I watched the song and I was like, I had a problem being in that point where I actually am evolving to be in the center of attention and having everything revolving around me. And I'm like, oh, it's actually a place where my soul is asking to go to, of where it's easy to be receptive of attention, of love, or also where the drama revolves around me, which is something that life puts you in this place. I've had such things in my life, or other aspects in my life, of course, but this was where, even though I was not displaying any behavior, this was a light that irritated my demons. It's like, yes, they're the center of attention. I kept, cognitively reminding myself that, yes, it's nothing wrong. But then if we took a time to take a space, okay, a step back, okay, it actually wasn't until that person was a friend, married, when I was like meeting the husband, I was like, oh, I'm transferring the child to you. And then I had to tend to my own inner child, which actually kind of likes the attention and having the attention revolving around her. Okay, so that was, oh, I dealt with that sun irritating my demons, and then I was like, okay, enough of being in the shade, or in the shade around this. It's time for me to evolve to the place where I shine. Okay, where I'm the center of attention, because Scorpio is very much in the shadows. It's in the deep shadows. You think about Scorpio or the last degrees of Libra. The last degrees of Libra are of extremism, but it's also, Libra is always people pleasing, and Scorpio is that deep, deep shadow, the underground, the well of things. So you think the antithetical is to be in the limelight. But Pluto Scorpio does evolve to, if it is in the beginning in Aries, so it's the limelight. If it is Taurus, it's more about ease and not having so many transformations all at once, and so on. So as you go, and you also need to remember, when do you meet this, because you need to think about the Pluto soul relationships that you have in your natal chart. If you have this in your natal chart, if you have the harmonious aspect, the tendency will be to get that. If you have the hard aspects, or you grew up with a relative or parent that have the hard aspects, the tendency would be character assassination, and then you would internalize it, and then you would project it. Okay? So this is where you're more susceptible to encountering people that have been through this crisis, and then we call them narcissists, which doesn't make it any better. Okay? So this is the light irritating demons, but meeting in a hard aspect. Okay, but again, the hard aspect is also important, because this is where there is a tension between the need to be in that Pluto place and the midway to where you are evolving. They are midway to where you are evolving. So this is a situation, for example, I have one of my parents, and we are both people of the words. So let's say I would begin to write, or I begin to do something, then they would say, no, but you need to take it way farther. You're not, but it would come out as like, yes, you're always afraid to do this or afraid to do that. And rather than supporting of like, hey, yes, let's do that next step, because where I would be at, it would be halfway to where they should be. And so instead of evolving where they should be, it would character assassinate the other, but this is also working the other way around. Okay? One of the things I was editing in my parents' book, and one of the things I was criticizing them, because I learned about, the plot and how we need to show and not tell, for the many dialogues. And then eventually I would write a satire full of dialogues, only dialogues. Because it's the funny way in which things move, where we have to let go of our own constraints of what art is, what expression is, and so on. So the square can give you a situation where this person is halfway towards where you should be evolving, so you want to push them forward. Okay? You want to push them even forward, or they want to push you into a place that is more evolved than where you've been, but is also constraining the entire shine of you. So they are half illuminating, half constraining. And that is how people can get in the way of their own creative drive and their own creative force. Okay? Again, the solution is to limit the conversations around this topic, or limit the presence of this person, of the two people in each other's life, so to meet other people. And when you run into the people that bridge the gap, those people can help you bridge the gap and help them bridge the gap to you. If they have these relations that are better to their Pluto, to your soul, to your Pluto, to their soul, they can help bridging the gap. They can help facilitate that understanding and acceptance. Okay? For where it would be easier to go out of character assassination mode to building. Now, here is something I also want to say. Pluto-Soul relations. Pluto is always sextile in Neptune. So what would happen is that the Pluto would oppose, then the Neptune would trine. The Pluto would square, then the Neptune would either oppose or would conjunct. No, the Pluto would square, then Neptune can be, for the square, I think it will be the opposition. Okay, but Pluto square is very difficult because it's given Pluto is square, Neptune is opposition. That's very difficult. Okay, the Pluto opposition that's given the Neptune's trine, this is also very difficult because this person would make you fall so that they can save you. Very, very unhealthy dynamic that you must, get out of. Yes, the tendency for the person, And again, if there is another person that could curate this dynamic, okay, but the tendency would be the person would knock you down to size so that they can save you. They can character assassinate you so that they can later support your soul. And when they are supportive, they are really supportive because they bring the power. And then you feel the power of the love. Supposedly supporting you in being who you are, but then you are rising to be who you are, boof, they knock you down. And so instead of blaming people, this is what astrology allows us to do, we can understand that there is a certain dynamic here, and that this dynamic does not necessarily coming from like deep trauma or deep this or deep that. It's just like you came from here, they're over, you're going there, they're over there. So if it is the sun and you're supposed to be right where they are, you see, then the tendencies would push them away so that you can go there. And sometimes it's what you need to do is to walk out of this person so that you can step into that type of limelight. And then you discover there are many limelights. Okay, it's not necessarily competition where only one of you will get to shine or something like that. No, you would very likely both are going to do your own thing, and everybody has their own chart. But but to bring you two together, it's like you are heading evolutionary where they are. Okay, that can be from on a Pluto evolutionary path. Okay, it's particularly for Pluto. Rahu Ketu is something completely different. Rahu Ketu would mean they're already tired of being there, you're eager to go there. And vice versa. Okay, so it has its pros and cons, but it can be very, yes, good relations, very long-term relations as well. With Pluto, you are getting out of a cave and they are standing in your way. But they're the sun. They're showing you that you need to go there, but that's standing in your way. And this is just climb on my back. So yes, more on the Pluto Soul harmonious aspects. Yes, Pluto Soul harmonious aspects are not easy because what they expose is where another person has not been shining. Okay. But they do it from a warming, a welcoming. It's like, hey, you were afraid, or sometimes you were afraid to shine more because you were afraid of those and those secrets to come out. And then it's like, oh, but it's not as scary as you thought that it is. Okay? But if somebody accepts this, somebody sees you, somebody supports you through coming out of, yes, your shadow, when it is the soul person, okay, then that can mean you are learning how to add power to your presence. You're learning how to add power to your presence. You're learning the deep psychology that you steer in people. Okay, because Pluto is also the psychology. But somebody can show you of what the reaction that you cause in other people, but in a way that is empowering rather than disempowering. Okay, so this in a way can help you evolve even as a solar person by the process of meeting that Pluto. It's still not easy because we're talking about your confidence, your shine, the kingdom you are building. Okay, and so it can even be that you can say to each other the same words, but coming from the harmonious aspect, it's like, yeah, they're right, we should go further. Coming from the crisis aspect, it's like, yeah, they're just trying to devalue what I already do. And that's like, in both cases, the intention can be positive. So this is also something to keep in mind. This is where we have a lot of ego wars, horrid like dynamics that can even be violent emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, and even physically. So the more we can tend to that and to curate for that and to understand, oh, that person I have this aspect with. If I need to tackle this person, there needs to be a bridge between us, and astrology can help elect that bridge between, so both people can feel more seen and more accepted, and less judged, because a part of seeing what we need to grow, to evolve, is something that helps us in our lives, but we need to receive it in a way that is actually supportive to us. Whoa, yes, the colors are changing. So yes, we're going towards our annual Sun opposition Pluto, and now it is exploring the themes of even more solar themes, because it's happening in Leo. So it's exploring the themes of my shine, my confidence, being the center of the show. When is it my time to shine? Where your time to shine? And on the polar opposite, it's the other type of person that wants to be. The originality is very important to them, much like the solar, but they are the antithesis to something. Okay, Aquarius is the antithetical to something. And the soul here reminds your, let's say, decentralized one world government that it's tyrannical, like royal families. Okay, it is reminding that, oh, that structure out of structure that you're building, that's North Korea. Okay, so this is where we will see along the coming 20 years of whenever we have this opposition, that we speak truth to power, but this time is a different power. Okay, it's the power of cults, it's the power of the hidden secret societies, that some of them have the pyramidic structure, but some of them are more even decentralized. It's the power of speaking truth. Okay, where, let's say, solar figures or leaders tell to indigenous communities, yes, of course, you rape your children, you wed the children, and this you do genitalia mutilation. Why do you? Okay, of course this happened to you. Of course, ask your own shamans. So this is also something we're going to see in the coming 20 years, because the Aquarius Pluto is evolving towards a soul Pluto. Right now, where Pluto is evolving to is Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But we don't want Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right? So this is a very conflictual problem, because so many people can see, like, oh, I can see how that manifested, but so many people are not having their shine. There's so many communities, like indigenous communities, yes, but they don't have value to life. And whenever another community arises, then they cannibalize, they rape, they this, they that, they mooch out. So it steers in those behaviors. And then when the age of ideology comes, we have Pluto in Cancer, almost Leo, then the reign is taken from the indigenous societies, because they've been doing too many things that people can't distinguish from the colonizers. And that's how, sometimes only when somebody with a different skin color does it, or different origin does it, they're like, oh my God, this is so terrible. It's like, that's what you've been doing the whole time, Nelson Mandela. Okay, so I guess this is not the time in history to say that, because that was me being the soul person. But this is also where the time where people can look at the greatest tyrannical regimes and solar figures and say, oh, they were a leader of the people, for the people. What went wrong? Oh, they were extorted. Okay, by what practices? A satanic ritual abuse. Where did they derive it from? Indigenous societies. Oh, now we are in the indigenous societies part. We need to evolve, but the most we remember of history to evolve to is the most tyrannical regimes that we've seen in history, culminating to the Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So A-bombs. So I'm conflicted when I'm thinking about that. But this is the polar opposite. And we'll definitely hear, I think, a lot of people kind of exposing indigenous societies, decentralized regimes. Yes, I saw Twitter X post that, yeah. Are you eating my hair? That's not good for you. Oh my God. Yes. Climber. Moon in Capricorn. They climb. My back is the greatest mountain here. So I've seen posts that were like comparing it's like North Korea to Israel, and they're like, oh, well, Israel is doing genocide and North Korea never fought a war. And I'm like, North Korea is fighting a war now. So we'll get to see what they're like. But this is kind of like the spirit of the times, right? Where people are like, hey, that country that was isolated, that this, that, they never fought a war with anyone. Well, now they enter the BRICS, they're gonna. Okay? But this is also exposing for what structures that we have accepted. The word is centralized. In the international arena, we thought that the structures were decentralized. And like, oh, we see the center is here. Oh, we see the center. If you're living in Israel, you think that United States control the world. If you're living in the United States, you're thinking that either Ukraine or Israel control the world. I don't know about Ukraine. And so that is the both multipolarity and inner pyramid that is kind of being exposed. I don't think it's given finances so much, and this is where the difficulty is, because Taurus and Scorpio are the finances axis square to this, and we have Uranus on our goal, but then it requires us to challenge our thinking, okay? Because as I remind people, the bloodlines that they put to tend to banking is Ashkenazi Jews bloodlines by design. Why? Because as Spanish Inquisition, okay, came about, the Jews were either tortured, escaped, or converted, and these bloodlines they would put to do what the Church and Islam cannot do. And so all of these bankings, all of these wealth families, the Jewish Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, and all these names that we don't know even, they got dividends to the church. Okay? For all the secret societies, they got dividends to the Inquisition. Okay? Taurus is like, hey, all these guys got dividends to the Inquisition, whereas the Aquarius and Soul is kind of like, oh, the center of the world is the Israeli Mossad. It's like, Israeli Mossad be like, we can't even figure out who killed Rabin. So that's true. So that is another thing to kind of think about, those structures that we do not see, and the connection to finances, and what's underneath that connection, which is governed again by different indigenous hierarchies, bloodline hierarchies, essentially, that are derived not from Abrahamic religions, but from tribal societies that came before them, where everybody says we should go to tribalism. I live I live around Beersheba city, and then we have a hospital, a lot of Bedouin villages. One time we had a Hamula war in front of Soroka Hospital. So you imagine hundreds of people fighting. The patients were shocked. Everybody was shocked. With tribal societies, you have this every other day, the tribal wars. every other day. Rape, mutilation, genitalia mutilation, torture, cannibalism. This is tribal societies for you, okay? So what the soul is saying, hey, we need to evolve from that, where people are like, oh, we need to go back there. So I hope that you can learn to identify the tensions, because to evolve to like a royal family that's doing the same thing, but it's just colonialist, is also not, okay, not a place. But I want you to kind of keep that in mind, and keep the tensions in mind as you go about your day with this Sun opposing Pluto, which will also, yes, the Sun opposing Pluto, which will also mean she's going to square Neptune. Yes, or trine. No, this is the trine, sorry. She's going to trine Neptune. So a lot of the resolution would be through satire, through art, through music, through poetry, through psychedelic experiences that can help you kind of tend to these tensions. But you have to remember there's a genuine Pluto position there. Okay, you don't want to use the trine to escape from the opposition completely. Okay, you still have to remember the opposition. So, yep, I'll see you in another video. Bye-bye.